Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Breakfast at Tiffany's. I am your host, Reverend Tiffany Williams Brewer, and I am the co pastor of Transform Church Global Ministries. And I am the leader of the Esther Project and the Esther Institute for the Advancement of Women. And we, along with the Upper Room Church, are your co hosts that bring you each and every month breakfast at Tiffany's. Our goal in having this conversation is to really bring women together to hear from women that are living with passion and purpose, to have those women come and open up the playbook of their life and give us some leadership lessons and strategies in order to advance our life and our life purpose. Today, we are speaking with some empowered, purposeful, passionate mothers and daughters. We think that the mother daughter relationship is a really important relationship. Now, we know that there are some boy moms out there. Don't feel left out because there are some lessons even for your relationship with your son that you can use. And maybe you're a girl dad and you are listening. Don't be left out, girl dads. We can take some translatable lessons for how you can nurture your relationship as a father with your daughter by listening to the strategies and celebrating these mothers and daughters. Today, our conversation is really going to be centered around legacy. And we chose legacy because as leaders, we know that our life is not just our own, and we want our life and our life's work to still be here when we are gone. And so these mothers have the opportunity to leave their legacy through their own daughters. So we're going to talk about, as a mom, how do you pass on your legacy? As a daughter, how do you receive that legacy? And of course, any authentic conversation has to also talk about what are the challenges of that. When you hear about these fabulous moms and daughters, you're going to know that it's that mantle can be heavy. So how do we navigate the challenges around these powerful mother-daughter relationships? Now, if you're new to Breakfast at Tiffany's, we welcome you. And if you are joining us again as a returning guest, then you know I don't have these conversations alone. I have them with some of my closest girlfriends, friends, sisters in empowerment, and another very special person, my mom. So, first, let me introduce and reintroduce to you none other than Salon Booth Grooms. Good morning, Salon.
Good morning, Reverend Tiffany. I'm so excited. Welcome, ladies, to another edition of Breakfast at Tiffany's.
And when I think of an empowered, fabulous super mom, I think of Salon Booth Grooms. She is the mother of four. And I'll let you, since this is Mother Daughter, I'll let you talk a little bit about your children this morning and tell us a little about your daughter in particular.
Yes, well, I am a wife and mother of four. I have three beautiful sons and my beautiful baby girl, who is not a baby anymore. She's 17 years old. And first of all, being a mom is absolutely magnificent. But particularly being a mom to a girl, you get to live your life all over again through her eyes, change mistakes that you've made, and really teach her the lessons that are going to set her on the right path. And when I think of legacy, I think of what I am implanting in her that is going to sprout new life and forever life. And what one of my main things is just to be authentic in front of her at all times and to show her confidence and passion and loyalty and dedication to the Lord. When you do that, you are giving your daughter the best foot forward to carry on your legacy.
Amen. Amen. And welcome to breakfast this morning. We will be back to you in a few moments because we don't have breakfast at Tiffany's without having breakfast. And Salon is our queen of breakfast. So we'll be back to you for our breakfast tip. But I want to introduce our other co host today, none other than my own mother. Pastor Phyllis Williams, the recent graduate as of last Thursday with her associate's degree from Middlesex College. And I have to say, Pastor Phyllis, you were the most radiant woman in that entire arena. You came out there and there was no woman that was shining in that graduation more than you, and it was a unanimous, verdict. So, I wanna welcome you this morning, Mom, and thank you for always being an awesome co-host for Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Thank you. Good morning. Great blessings to all the moms and the future moms. Today, we welcome you, and this is such a special meeting today. You're going to learn and you're going to see the examples of some super moms. I know them all, and I know all about them, some many years, some in lesser years. But thank God for all of you and welcome. And feel free to share, to take notes, because it's going to be very, very good.
Amen. And to ask questions as well, we have a
Yes.
Q&A little box that you can click and try to ask your questions in that Q&A box as opposed to the chat, just so we don't miss it in the chat. But feel free to use the chat for your comments and your reactions because we love them and we are blessed. And that's how you can participate as well on Breakfast at Tiffany. So, Salam, what is our breakfast tip for today on this very special edition of Breakfast at Tiffany's?
So, you may not know, but I'm on a mini staycation at the Jersey Shore, and I'm having a great time enjoying fun in the sun and all that good stuff. But sometimes when you go on vacation, your diet seems to go out the window. You want to eat all the burgers and the hot dogs and whatever you can grab. It's a free for all. So, what I try to make sure I do is make sure I start with the most important meal of the day, which is breakfast, and I load up on things that are good for me. So then I make better decisions for my food choices throughout the day. And this is something that you don't only do on vacation, you can do this every day. So today I started with a breakfast bowl, and it's a bunch of berries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, all the great antioxidants that are just so good for your soul and so good for the way to help the way you look, to help the way you feel, all that great stuff. I added some granola just to give it some oomph so that it can be filling, and some nuts. And this is something that can just set your day off right. If you want, you can put Greek yogurt in it, stuff like that, and you're just ready. And then when you put something like this in your stomach for the first thing, you are likely to make better choices for the rest of the day. So, my breakfast tip is to start your day nourished and fulfilled, and you'll make great choices throughout the day.
I love that tip. And I also am not at home. I'm in Orlando, Florida right now. And, I was wondering what advice do you have for also like navigating like vacation food, right? When it comes to if there's a buffet, like there's a breakfast buffet, and maybe you have less control because of transportation or things, right? You may have to eat in the hotel you're in. How do you navigate and kind of find some of the basics that are nourishing for you?
Well, first off, they're usually going to always have some type of vegetable or some salad. Load up on the salad and the veggies. That's going to help you fill up and give you everything you need. And then it's a vacation. You're on a trip, and let yourself enjoy it. Sample some things, but make the portion sizes small so you're not overindulging. And if you're loading up on salad and veggies, that's going to fulfill you. And then you're not going to want to have a bunch of nonsense. And even if you're hungry, like sometimes I'll go to lunch and I'm just dying for a burger or something that is not as healthy. But as soon as I eat my salad, which I asked for first, then all of a sudden I don't need that extra that I thought I did. And it tastes just as good. Also, your food choices. You White fish, that's a better choice than maybe something that is more fatty. Having things grilled instead of or steamed instead of fried. Just those little things that you're going to do to make sure that you're staying on the right track when it comes to the intake of your food.
Awesome. Thank you. And I needed you for the past few days. So I'll do better. I will do better. Okay.
Yes. And drink
Well,
lots of water. Water, 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 water.
yes. Awesome. Stay hydrated. And I hope you're going to be hydrated as you're listening and listen. Now, if you are tuning into us, you're not on camera, so it's okay. Why don't you go and grab something healthy to eat if you haven't eaten yet? If there is a different food choice you were tempted to make this morning, why don't you go ahead and swap it out? Maybe boil some eggs while we're talking, right? Maybe have something a little nourishing and warm in your body, some good protein. All right, it's not too late, even right now, to make that shift. And so, as you're talking, Salon, I'm thinking as mothers and daughters, we can also encourage each other to eat well. However, getting into our conversation, right? Sometimes it's hard, right, Sabria and Sierra, for your mom to tell you you shouldn't be eating that, right? So, hopefully, after today, we'll have better strategies of how mothers and daughters can even continue to hold each other in accountability, right, for the things that are important to us moving forward. But, Mom, I re give you permission now to help me to continue to make better food choices. Because, I'll try to shut Mom down sometimes. Now that I'm an adult, Dr. Shalanda, I try to, assert myself, but we're going to talk about all of that today. So, I am going to briefly introduce our mothers and daughters, but I thought you would enjoy more if moms and daughters introduce each other. But I will just briefly say that I selected and handcrafted these mother daughter combos today because of what they represent. They represent the essence of motherhood. They represent the essence of daughterhood. And even in the case of Sherry and I, right, being adult daughters that don't have daughters ourselves, yet God uses us to be mothers in a different way to others. So we're going to talk about what motherhood really is too, right? And what being a daughter really is. And it's beyond biology. So I'm going to start with introducing the Thomases we have today, Dr. Shalanda and Morgan Thomas. If you want to just wave and greet us this morning, hello. We also have and these are great, everyone on the screen you're seeing, great friends of mine. I have been in their homes and seen them behind the scenes and seen them in their very forward facing public roles. And they are women of integrity, daughters and mothers, women of integrity. And that's why they're coming before you today. Dr. Charlene Smith, Sabria and Ciara Smith, how are you? If you could wave for us, amazing women. And then we have Chitra, who I have the word Forbes next to her name, and you'll find out why when her daughter introduces her. And Vidi Madan, powerful mother daughters who I love dearly, wave to us. And last but not least, we have the incomparable, and you'll hear why. Dr. Marion Johnson, a piece of living history that we can all learn from and admire, and so faithful to our Breakfast at Tiffany's family. She will text me if she cannot come. She is like, oh, I just wanted you to know, daughter, I cannot come. And just as if she didn't have other things to do with her time. So I thank you. I love you. And your incomparable daughter, Dr. Sherry Wilson, my sister from another mister. Love you, love you, love you. So why don't we start with the Thomases? So Morgan, can I ask you to introduce your mom? And then Dr. Shalanda, can you introduce your amazing daughter?
Yeah, this is my mother, Dr. Shalanda Thomas. She is a first lady at Greater Harvest Baptist Church. And this is my wonderful daughter, Morgan. She is just the apple of my eye. I'll call her my pumpkin pie. She's graduating this year, and she's attending Hampton University.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank
All
you for
right.
having us. Thank you so much for having us.
And let us know where you are, where you're from, where you live.
We live in Cranford, New Jersey right now.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to move from Cranford down to Monmouth County. So why don't we go to the Smiths? So Ciara and Sabria, would you introduce your mom?
This is our mom, Dr. Charlene Smith. She is a special educator and she works with adults with autism on the autism spectrum and also adults with learning disabilities.
Awesome.
And Sabria is the eldest. She's 22 years old, and Sabria is a recent graduate from Monmouth University, and she's making plans to pursue a master's in public policy and then her law degree. Sierra is in 8th grade. She will be going in 9th grade in the fall. She's 14 years old. She is a competitive gymnast. She's also an honor roll student and is doing really well in school. And she said she wants to become a surgeon when she complete her her studies.
Awesome. And you all live?
In Manalapan, New Jersey.
Awesome.
Okay.
And let's go to the Madons. Hello.
Hi, so this is not only my mom, but also my best friend, Chitra Ramadan. And she is very, very successful and my biggest inspiration in life. She's been on Forbes not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times as one of America's top women wealth advisors. And she's been featured in a lot of magazines, Women We Admire, as America's top woman leaders in finance, and she's so hardworking and such a great person, and I love her so much.
Oh, thank you. So this is my daughter Vidi Madan, also my best friend, and I have to say my biggest strength. Vidi and her brother, her twin brother, when they came to my life and embraced motherhood, I think that was the best thing God has gifted to me. And she is a finance student at University of Miami. She is a rising junior now. Very successful, but most importantly, what I love about Vidhi is her selflessness, her unconditional love, and she's not just taught me that as a mother, but also as a person. So I am so honored to be her mom.
Awesome. Awesome. Dr. Sherry, you want to introduce your mom?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tiffany. I'd like to introduce Dr. Marion Lee Johnson. My mother is designated as a living legend for her contributions to the space program, which resulted in America's first lunar landing. That was the Apollo 11 mission. As a person, my mother is a trailblazer. She is a sage. She is a guide, and she is the embodiment of love. She is my best friend, and I've just learned so much from her. And most of all, she's mommy. She's mommy.
Oh, and Dr. Marion Johnson, our living legend. Would you like to introduce your daughter? Oh, you're on mute. I think you're still on mute. There you go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good
I'm a
morning.
little hoarse this morning, but please bear with me. My lovely daughter, I always call her Precious, Dr. Sherry Wilson. She's my eldest daughter. I have 2 other daughters, but Sherry is the role model for my other daughters. She sort of paved the path and they sort of follow and they see what Sherry does and they will do the same. Maybe not the same professions, okay, but they do strive to be their best. And that's what Sherry does. Sherry is the director of partnership development of Stride Corporation. She's the president of the Virginia Nurses Association. She is, and I asked her about this morning, Sherry, you have so many titles. Which ones should I use? But the last one I'm going to tell you about is her American Association of Nursing. She is a fellow. So now she's at the top of her game. And I so admire Sherry. Her family admires her. She gives good advice. And most of all, she's a child of God.
Wow. Well, I think you all can see out of the mouth of the mothers and daughters why I chose them to be our guest today. So I'm going to start with each of these mothers and daughters and get into conversation about their relationship. And then we'll just ask a few questions that any mother and daughter can answer. But I'm going to start this morning with the Thomases. Dr. Shalanda and Morgan Thomas. So, first of all, what are some things that the two of you like to do together? Because we want to inspire mothers and daughters. Also, let's put it out here, right? Mother and daughterhood can be challenging. So, if you are listening or you know someone that you want to share this conversation with, who may need a little inspiration to healing their mother daughter relationship, we hope that these mother daughters sharing even their journey, the things they like to do together, will provide you with some strategies of what you can do to start healing your mother daughter relationship. So, what do the two of you really enjoy doing together?
Well, I love to go traveling with my mom. Like today, we're going to North Carolina. I love to go get our nails done. We like to go out to eat together. Sometimes I just go in her room and just bother her. I love doing that. So yeah.
Yeah. I just enjoy her. I just look at her sometimes and just marvel, like, wow, I can't believe, God blessed me with such a great daughter as her. And I'm just super proud of her. So, anytime we're together, we're just in each other's presence. I'll just either sit and just stare. I'm like, oh my gosh, or I'll just start talking to her and asking her tons and tons of questions that she says, Mommy, you ask so many questions. And I'm like, it's because I want to know things. But it's just, like she said, I mean, we're foodies, so we love to eat. We love to travel together. When I say let's, she says go. And that's just some of the things that we do together is eating and traveling and getting our nails and things done and just spending that quality time together and then being able to just talk and just sit. And one thing I love about her is that she's not afraid to talk to me and tell me anything.
I heard that and I wanted to follow up on that. I heard Morgan say that she likes to sometimes just come in your room and bother you, and it just we know it's not bothering, but it gave me this image that you have an open door to your daughter, your heart, your
Absolutely.
ear. And then I hear you saying also that you just admire your daughter and she brings inspiration to you. So I wanted to ask, what do you think are the essential elements that you have cultivated as a mother that allow your daughter to see you as a resource and an open door?
One thing I obviously I don't think I can take credit for. First, I give honor to God for just allowing me to be a parent at the right time. I think I chose to have kids when I was ready to have kids and not before that. And then too, I have to give credit to my mom, who, she and I have a great relationship. And then from there, I always said I wanted to have that great relationship and, like you say, legacy, have that great relationship with my daughter. So I believe the ingredients for a great relationship is being honest and having that communication, having an open door policy and a free judgment zone. Don't, judge your daughter. You were young once too. So I make sure that I let her know that she can, be who come into the person that she is meant to be, but also I give her, some warning signs, some things to look out for and try to help her navigate life, and that she doesn't, make the same mistakes that I make. But if she does, it's not the end of the world. It's just, you made that mistake, you learn from it and move on.
And do you actually share, how do you maintain that balance as a mom, right? With sharing vulnerabilities of mistakes of your past with kind of keeping the line of, you know, TMI,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Maybe,
Yes.
and especially at certain ages. How have you navigated that balance?
That's a great question. And some things I'm like, do I share with her? But then if I don't, I won't give her the whole story. I'll give her half the truth. So I do. I share with her so that she can have a point of reference. And she'll say, Mom, this is how I'm feeling today, or this is what I want to do. I want to, if she's having an issue with a friendship or something at school, she wants to just, react. And I say, you know what, Mommy gets it. I understand how you feel. And this is why I understand it, because when I was your age, this is what happened to me, and this is how I handled it. So I try to give her, how they say, you always have a way of escape. So I try to give her a way of escape. Like, think about the consequences. If you react the way you want to react in that moment, think about how it's going to impact you in the long run. Think about those consequences. So she hears that. She doesn't let it go through one ear and out the other. She processes it, and then she'll write it down in her journal, and then she'll feel much better about it.
Mm. And moms, I hope you're hearing, it takes courage to be vulnerable with your daughters, and I'm sure there is a point in time when you may have to think for a few, right? And come back to a conversation, because you may need a few minutes to gain some courage to share in vulnerability, right? Something that your daughter may need to hear about your experiences and how you may have navigated something. So, Morgan, I want to ask you from your perspective, do you think that your relationship and the openness that you describe with your mom is unique? Like, when you look at some of your peers, do they all have those relationships, or do you feel like there's a uniqueness there?
I definitely feel like there's a uniqueness. Like sometimes I'll talk to my friend and I'm like, oh yeah, I told my mom that I did this, that, and the other. And she's like, wow, I could never tell my mom that. And I'm like, wow, that's so interesting that you don't have that type of closeness or that type of vulnerability that I have with my mom. Cause I like, I have it, something everybody else does, but it's very unique to me. And I really appreciate it, because sometimes like I tell my mom that I just need to vent to her. I don't want to hear like her backstories or anything like that. Sometimes I'm like, Mommy, I just need you to listen to me. I don't need you to say anything. And she'll do that for me. And she will never judge me. And like, if I do make a mistake, like she said, it's never the end of the world. And she's always there for me. Like, she'll warn me about something, I'll do it. I'm not even gonna lie. She'll warn me and I will do it, just to see how it's gonna make me feel sometimes. And she's always there to support me when I'm feeling sad. So it's definitely unique to me.
And thank you for your vulnerability as well as a daughter, acknowledging that sometimes my mom tells me what to do and I do the opposite because I just want to try it myself, right? And so, and I hear grace. I hear grace as a theme as well. So if we talk a little bit about how the two of you navigate through challenges. So Morgan, let me start with you. What I want you to think about, when you think your mom is maybe being unreasonable, right? Or not listening to you, or wanting to kind of tell you what to do. Some of the things that you said, like the opposite, right? How do you get your mom to kind of break through and see your point of view? And what are the things that you would even share with your mom and other moms as to what are the signs that maybe they need to back down and listen more? Like, help these mother daughters and some of your peers, right, that may not have that relationship. What are the things that moms should do in challenging times and daughters can communicate when maybe you're butting heads?
So, like when we're arguing, you mean, or like when we're
Yeah.
butting heads? Okay. So I try to reason with her. I feel she's a very analytical person. So she needs to, ask the questions and really get like zone in on me to understand where I'm coming from. So I have to like break it down to her. Sometimes I'm like, Mom, this is what's happening. And I just really need you to understand. Like, I am okay. Like last night, I was out with my friends and she like was blowing up my phone, like, where are you? You need to come home right now. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Mommy, I understand how you're feeling, but I'm having a really good time with my friends. I am okay. I will update you along the way. I don't want you to worry. I am okay. I was driving. Everything was fine. So she just personally with my mother, she just needs a breakdown. And when we're butting heads, I guess.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And from your perspective, Dr. Shalanda, what do you kind of feel and sense is what you see in your daughter that kind of helps you to click and just navigate through like a difficult time?
I look, first of all, I pray, and then the answer comes back to me saying, you know who she is because you raised her. You know what she's going to do, what she's capable of doing. And then I just think, well, I know her, I trust her. It's the other people that make me worry. But then I know she has a fence of protection around her, that she has a covering around her, but it still doesn't um, negate the fact that I'm a mom, and I'm going to be concerned. I'm going to be worried, when I feel like she's out there in the world. And I just have to trust, like, I know who she is. I know what what we've instilled in her. And, like, for example, I told her, never go alone anywhere. You always travel in a group. Don't drink anything that anybody gives you. You buy only something that's bottled, and make sure the top is not tampered with. So I give her, and she's like, I know, mom, I know all of that, I'm good. So it's just a matter of knowing, being confident in who you're raising and what you've instilled in them, and just trusting that God knows that that you want them protected and covered, and that he's going to do it. So
And
that's the challenge. The challenge is really the battle within me, trying to convince myself that, she's going to be okay and not to worry.
And I appreciate that vulnerability too. And I'm hearing trust. I'm also hearing knowledge. Morgan started out saying that my mom is analytical, right? So that shows that as a daughter, you have to get to know your mom as well and how to really connect with her. I want to bring Chitra and Vidya into the conversation and ask you also, I'm curious, Chitra, as a mom, Vidya was our intern for the Esther Project and the Institute, and she's been a co-host on here. So we are very familiar with how talented she is and how she started to show leadership at such an early age. And I'm wondering, as a mom, as you watched her as a young girl start to develop, what are some of the passions that you saw in her, and how did you decide like what to expose her to nurture what you were seeing?
So, Tiffany, I feel that I just let her be. She is, a born talent. She's a born, you know, God's gift, I have to say. But I did started noticing all this early on. And I'm a mother of twin children, and they both demonstrated, different qualities about themselves. And I just, let them both be. Vidhi, I can share, and I know I shared that at her graduation speech as well. She was in preschool, and she had just gotten into kindergarten, and she came home with a certificate where she's named as a person who's a leader who stood up against bullying. While others were watching the situation, she stood up, and she stood up for the person that really needed her the most. So the school recognized her. But most importantly, when I was in my career path, and I was going through situations, professionally, right? When you are a woman, when you're working in a financial world that's male dominated, there are a lot of issues that sometimes come at work as well. And I kind of felt I came home, I was frustrated, I did not appreciate the way one of my coworkers that I looked up to was behaving with me. So I came home, and during dinner time, I shared, with my family. And she was the first one to say, Mom, have you heard about the invisibility test? And I said, no, what's that? And she goes, oh, Mom, my teacher taught us that. Like, if there is a person that actually is bothering you, and it's not letting you bring the best out of you, you don't have to engage in a fight with them, or you don't have to engage in what they're trying to do, because that's how they win. You just pretend that they're invisible. So you act like they don't exist around you. You don't react to them. You just walk away, and you continue to do what you're doing. That was so empowering for me from a 5-year-old daughter. I really needed that. I went back, and I used that, wisdom that she had given me, and it worked. It really worked. It allowed me to soar in what I was doing. It took a lot of negative, thoughts that I was engaging myself in. It took out the thought that I was feeling a victim of a situation, because now I felt accomplished. that I had won from that situation. So a lot of things. I have learned a lot from her. But the most important thing that we have in our relationship is trust and communication. Apart from all the love we both share for each other, we communicate like anything. She shares anything and everything with me, and I do the same. And we both don't judge each other. She could be in a wrong situation. And I would tell her that, you know what, I wouldn't have done it this way, but I understand why you did it. But I have noticed that 8 out of 10 times where she has reacted differently than how I would have reacted in a situation, she was right. So maybe I was a little bit more emotional towards the situation, and I'm more protective, and I'm a different personality than she is. But she was right. So I trust her a lot. And now she comes back to me. She's like, I'm right, right? And I'm like, yes, yes, I do. So there is a lot of free flow communication, a lot of love, a lot of trust. And that's what I think I admire the most in our relationship.
Wow. And Chitra, you mentioned trust and a high degree of trust. And first of all, I'm still wrapping my head around how a 5-year-old could give you that career advice. But if any 5-year-old could, it would be Vinny, right? But do you have advice for moms that may be listening whose daughters have violated their trust, right? How can they trust again, right? And what is the level of grace that's needed versus, when you are trying to instill something and discipline and right decision making in your daughter, how do you find that balance as a
I'm
mom?
so glad you asked me that question, Tiffany, because I'm going to share for the first 3 or 4 years of me being a mother, I was chasing perfection. I was trying to raise children that were going to be disciplined, that were going to respect, that were going to be smart. So I was like teaching, I had a preschool teaching, experience. So when they were born, I was a preschool teacher to them. So I was trying to, our we would play together, but it was all involved about academics and social development and other stuff. But then, and I would get upset, because if they wouldn't react or she wouldn't react the way I wanted, I would get upset. It would bother me. And one day I remember Vidhi had come to me and she said, Mama, when you get upset with me, my entire world just shuts down. And that was such an important part for me to learn as a mother, that this is how much it takes for a child to, go through with the way I react as a mother. So at that point, I feel I was a changed mother. And I started putting myself in their shoes. So I started thinking about how a 7-year-old girl would, feel, right? If I told her not to have a popsicle because she'll have a sore throat. Or how would a 15-year-old girl feel if I told her you can't go out with your friends when all her friends are going? Or how would she feel if I told her not to wear a certain dress? Because I've started, experiencing her by putting myself in her shoes. And that was something that really allowed me to manage my own emotions, manage my own expectations. Vidhi has not grown up in an environment where I grew up with. So we are not supposed to experience the same exact things. It's not fair to her to go through the same challenges that I did. And yes, I can share my challenges with her, but she has a life of her own and she should be allowed to do what she likes to do. So a lot of freedom I gave her. I even understand her now. Like at 20, what would you want from a mother, or what would you want from a friend, or what would you want from a father? And that has really helped me. And I would definitely encourage all the moms to feel how their daughter or their sons would feel at that age, and not think of themselves when they were in that stage of life, because it's a different generation we are talking about.
Wow, great advice. Great advice. And Vidi, you have a very powerful mother who has been recognized, outwardly in the world, in her profession. Is that a heavy weight for you to carry as a daughter when you think about what expectations there may be of you? And how do you handle that?
It's really funny because all of my friends like growing up in high school and all my friends in college, like they know like who my mom is, and like, it takes one Google search and all her accomplishments come up and they're like, "Oh my God, like your mom is so amazing. Like, can I get an internship connection? Like that's amazing." And I'm so, so proud of my mom. I think more of a heavy weight, it kind of just like motivates me to like, get to that level someday. because I think that I have her as like an inspiration. So it's like, okay, my mom did this. And she always tells me, she's like, I grew up like in India and I came here and I built myself. And she's like, if you can do it, I'm giving you all like, the best education, all the resources. If I can do it, you can make it further than me. She always says that to me because my mom always wants me to make it, big, and she wants me to do better than her. I feel like that's what every mom wants. They want their kid to excel and like move past them. But I see it more of as like an inspiration and, a goal that I need to, so like not surpass, but I want to get to her level someday because that would be amazing. But yeah. No, sometimes definitely I'm like, oh wow, like that's a lot of pressure. Like, everyone's like, oh, like her mom is so successful, like her mom, she's the best in the country, like, and I'm like, oh my God, like, am I gonna be able to do that? Like, so it's definitely like, I'm like, oh, like I hope I can do that someday. But I think of it as more like inspiring than heavyweight.
So you are finishing, you just finished this year in college at University of Miami.
Yeah.
So Morgan, she's a step ahead of you. She has navigated what you're going to navigate, right? Um, so this was your first time really living away from your mom. What was that experience like, and how have you been able to change and still develop your relationship with your mom being away at college now?
Yeah, of course. So, as you know, my mom's in New Jersey. I'm in Miami, Florida. And I'm living my own life now, as she said, and I'm with friends, and I'm just, focusing on school, focusing on classes, just, having a good time. And one thing I realized is that I think before I left for college, I was a little nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to like, like not be with my mom every day. Like she's my best friend. Like, how am I gonna who am I going to talk to every day? But then I realized, iPhone's a great, great invention. So I always just go into classes calling my mom. Like, and when she doesn't answer, I get offended. I'm like, Mom, like what? She's like, oh, I'm in a meeting right now. I can't talk. And I'm like, Mom, pick up. Who am I going to talk to? But I talk to her every day. And if we're not talking on the phone, we're texting. She's sending me those Instagram reels. Like I get like 50 Instagram reels a day. I'm like, Mom. But I think it's really important that even if you're not like face to face every day, I can go months without seeing my mom, but we still have that same, if not stronger bond, because we're always staying in contact and we're just always like, making time for each other. I think that's so important, especially like, if you're gonna go away to a different state in college, you need to make time for each other. You need to understand when the other one is busy, and you just need to like, there are ways you can just grow your relationship without being in the same house all the time.
So, Tiffany, I would like to add, since you brought up college, Vidhi was in Rome for the first semester, like a high school student just left the home from a very sheltered environment to a brand new country with no friends. Like she didn't know anyone there. So she had to build relationships. So me and my husband happened to, go out and, in a few months, we just went, for a break just to see how she was doing. And in the beginning, she was very nervous and we both cried when she went and good stuff. But when I went there, what really touched my heart, she did well in school, she made friends, but she was living in an apartment in Rome, and when we were, crossing the street of Rome, I would say at least 8 out of 10 shopkeepers said, "Hi, Vidhi, are you gonna come and eat this?" A homeless person on the street knew her name. She
Wow.
checked on the dog that, the homeless person had. There were numerous times when she shared with me that I'm going to buy food for that person because it breaks my heart. Mom, it's getting cold. I'm going to give my blanket to that person. And I felt that, I felt so good, besides everything that, college experience comes with. When you've raised a good human being that can actually make connections in an unknown world with people that cannot even speak your language sometimes. And, you don't judge people based on what they can do for you, but you basically just build that connection. My heart was like full, and I told my husband, I said, congratulations, we have accomplished what we really wanted to accomplish, and I'm so proud of her. She traveled alone, she took a lot of trips by herself, so she developed that sense of independence, confidence, learning what she should and she shouldn't. And she also came home very grateful, because little things that we take for granted, such as hot water, such as space, such as closet, she was struggling with all of that, living in a tiny apartment, sharing with friends. So she came home with, oh my God, mom, I'm so grateful for things that I did take for granted. So all the moms that have children going to college, just be ready to explore what's out there, and don't be fearful because you've already done the job.
I love that. And thank you for addressing that as well, because, one of the things that I think if we all look at certain relationships that we may see that may not be as healthy with mothers and daughters, we may see a theme that maybe a daughter never launched, right? Or maybe a mother never let a daughter go to launch. So we want to make sure that in these healthy mother-daughter relationships, that moms are able to launch their daughters and daughters are able to be independent. So, and I know that was probably challenging to send your child not only to college, in case you missed this, Vidi's first semester of college was overseas in Rome. So, and I thought of the story of Esther, how even though Esther went to the palace, Mordecai found himself checking on her and stayed in her environment. So I think that's an important thing. You said you and your husband went over and you checked on her as well. So, Smith family, I want to come over to you and to ask you, what do you all like to do together, first of all?
So I'll start.
Okay.
One thing about like the three of us, we all seem to be very big workaholics. We love to work. We love to be constantly doing stuff. So whenever we're all together and when we get a time to take a break, we love to like get pampered, get our nails done, go to the mall, go shopping. We love to shop. We love to
You love to shop.
So perfectly. We love to like especially when we are shopping, we love to like get a meal, like just take a break from all the work we love to do throughout the week, especially on the weekends. We always are doing something and we love to also do activities together. Like for example, like we haven't done it in a while, but like at times sometimes we go roller skating or we'll go to trampoline parks or we'll just do
But you like to
something.
do, right?
Yeah, but everyone wants to do that.
Let's Sabrina talk.
And for me, I've been in college for the past 4 years. So what I love to do with my mom now, being at home, is like the Thomases said, like going into her room and just bothering her. I tend to talk a lot, so I just like doing that with her, watching her favorite shows. I'm always making her watch certain things with me, and so doing that, just spending quality time with each other, is something that we love to do.
And Sabria, you are even a step further than Vidi, right? And because you have finished school now. And I'm wondering, what is do you have a new appreciation for your mom since you have been through college?
Yes, definitely. I think growing up, like I loved my mom. We had a great relationship, but as like I got into high school and stuff, people do like tend to butt heads a little bit. It's like clean your room, do the dishes. And so going to college, you're like, oh, I have my own space now. But you realize, especially coming back home, how much I did miss my parents and how much I miss my mom, and the values that she instilled with me very much stuck with me throughout college. And I think also one thing that I really love that she's instilled in both of us is like a sense of confidence. And when I was younger, I was a little more shy and I was very anxious. But going to college, when it came to standing up for myself, speaking my mind, I always would say to my friends, like, I'm bringing out my inner Charlene, like I'm bringing out my like inner mom, like this is my mom, like I'm being like her. And I really do take on those like moral and values that she's instilled in us, being very strong in our faith and being very strong in being caring and honest and loving and standing on those values. So I have very much a new appreciation for my mother now.
And you have brought us, I was going to ask you all in particular, start the conversation about legacy, right? So you just gave us an example maybe of how you're receiving your mom's legacy by, internalizing her. And so, Ciara, let me ask you, do you feel that you're receiving kind of the legacy of your mom? And if so, even at your age, how are you receiving that? And what is that like for you?
Yes, I do in fact feel that I'm receiving the legacy
Receiving.
from my mom. My mom has always been such an like not in the terms outgoing, but such like an out there and bold person. And I've seen myself in school whenever like someone needs help, I'm always lending a helping hand. Whenever like especially like with my friends or even people I don't know, if someone's sitting alone, I'll go sit with them. Like I love to help people out, and that's a quality I take from my mother. She's always lending a helping hand, especially to us as her daughters and to her son, and to just everyone in our community and around us.
And Dr. Charlene, how do you now I'm looking at these two angels and thinking there could never be any conflict between them, right? But
Please.
now you have two daughters in the house, right? How do you help them to navigate any conflict with one another? And how do you navigate any challenges with each of them?
So I realized that my two daughters, they have different personality. And parenting doesn't come with a handbook or manual. You get a child and then you try to raise them the best that you can. For my parents, they didn't have the information or the knowledge or education that I have. So I do a lot of research if I want to, and I still do that, even though I have a doctorate degree, it's not in parenting. So I would always research how to respond to a child in a certain way. Sabria is more reserved, more not as outgoing as Sierra. Sierra is very extrovert, and so she wants to always be going, hanging with her friends, any activities and so forth. So I try to train them, or actually respond to them based on their own personality. And so if Sierra wants to go to an event or something, I might allow her to go, but I'll go so I can be more like a chaperone to see, what's going on because she's pretty young. We don't do the sleepover, so she knows that's not going to happen. So she tell her friends that, with Sabria, her respond is going to be different. Sabria is very empathic and always, very emotional, feeling about other people's feelings and so forth. Sierra will respond to situation differently than Sabria. So I'll have to approach them differently. So if I'm going to talk to Sabria about something that, that I feel I need to address with her, I have to think about how am I going to approach her so she doesn't take it, internalize it, and be offensive about it. Whereas Sierra, I could maybe be a straight shoot with her, and she would not internalize it the way that Sabria might internalize it. But at the same time, I still have to approach Sierra in a certain way so I can bring out that sensitivity, that empathic part about her, so she could know how to respond to other people who might be going through a situation, and she have to address them, but in a way that it doesn't come across mean to the person, but at the same time, she's able to stand up and, for herself. So just navigating the way I respond to both of them in the same household is a task that I have to always be thinking about as a parent, because even though children, they come from the same parents, the same genes, they have different personalities. So you have to know how to address situation with them, because you want them to always be the best version of themselves, to bring out the best of themselves. And as parents, we have to be careful how we are talking to our children, how we are nurturing them also, because so they can be their best version of themselves. Now, when it comes to Sabri and Cece, sometimes they see things differently and they approach things differently. And so they will sometimes be, well, Sabri is like 6 years older than Sierra, but Sierra is the youngest and she thinks 9 years?
Yeah.
No, 9 years older. But Sierra thinks she's the boss and thinks she's in charge. And so I have to always remind her that Sabria is older and she should be respectful of Sabria. But in our house, we allow our children to express how they feel. We have open communication. And a lot of times I would have to say, okay, listen, not because I allow this open communication mean that you can just say whatever you want to say now. So sometimes I have to be like, okay, you still have to be respectful to one another.
Hmm. And I love how you really walked us through when you have multiple children, right? How, and multiple daughters, how you really cater to each one and who they are. And let me just finally ask you, what inspires you about your daughters?
Oh, wow. My daughters, as you can see, they are very beautiful. They are intelligent, smart girls. One of the things I like about them, they know how the confidence that I instilled in them, and they stand up for themselves. So I remember a story when we were back home in the Bahamas, and see, Sabria attended a school where it was very diverse. And I remember one day she came home and she said she wants her hair to, she want to be able to shake her hair, like some of her other friends. And so I said, listen, your hair, I can blow dry your hair, straighten it, and you'll be able to shake it. I said, or I could put your hair in a puff that none of your other friends can have the hair in a puff. I could cornrow your hair, braid your hair, and your other friends, some of your friends cannot do that. I say, so embrace your uniqueness. This is the way God made you. This is the way you are. And so after that, the puff, one ponytail puff, just like what Morgan has on your side, that was Sabria's favorite hairstyle for years. No matter what anybody else the hair. Just of late, when she went to college, she started putting braids in her hair. But that's one of the things I admire about my girls, that no matter where they are, who they are, they can be the only Black girl in the room. They embrace their ethnicity, what they look like, and they hear, and they're not trying to change it to fit in with anybody else. So that's one of the things that I really admire about them.
Awesome. And we can see in this conversation how legacy is really being received and passed on. So, Dr. Marion Johnson and Dr. Sherry, I really wanted to dig into this theme of legacy with you all in particular, because of how seasoned and accomplished you are in particular, Dr. Marion. And you being the daughter of someone who literally, when the African American Museum opened at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., your mother's name was in the NASA Ring of Honor. When you watch the movie Hidden Figures, right? While no lead character played her, she was really being depicted as one of the women who made these sort of contributions, right? And she's received so much notoriety. So, Dr. Sherry, how do you think you are receiving this legacy from this legendary mother that you have? And what is the weight of that like?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Reverend Tiffany. I would say it is definitely, it is such an honor, and it's a major responsibility. But at the same time, I believe Vidi said it as I was um, listening to her speak. It's inspiring. I'm walking in her light. I'm walking in my mother's light. And so it is, I don't feel the weight, if you will. I feel more of an inspiration. I do feel the responsibility. And the undercurrent in my mother's work, yes, she has earned many titles and awards, but at the core, she has really what her calling has been is to make a difference in the lives of others and really make an impact. And so I carry that torch. And for me, it shows up differently in my body of work. But to answer your question, I think it's more of an inspiration and a light to keep going.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I like that concept of light. You know, daughters, moms give us light. We get to wake up in the light of our moms. And I know everyone who may be listening may not be feeling that, right? Because moms are people too, and everyone and at every phase in life, mom's light may not be as bright because mom may be having some challenges in life herself. And if that is you, then maybe along your path of getting the light of your own life, you may have to turn back around, right? And help mom to reignite her torch as well. But I love this concept of light that you've added to the conversation of legacy. I dare say legacy is light. And Dr. Sherry, you put in the chat, can you just repeat out loud what you put in the chat, your acronym for legacy?
Actually, that was Dr. Shalonda.
Oh, I thought that was you. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Yolanda, can you tell us what was your acronym for
Letting,
legacy?
yeah, letting everything God allows continue yearly.
That is awesome. Awesome. Letting everything God allows continue yearly. So, Dr. Marion, what I want to ask, what part of your mom's legacy are you carrying on and also passing on to your daughters? We have one of your brilliant daughters on
Yes,
today, but
yes,
you have three daughters.
yes, I do. I have three daughters, and they're all standing in their own light,
Yes.
but they all grew and learned from the Beacon. And the Beacon daughter is Sherry. She was their light and shining star. If Sherry could do it, then we could do it too.
Yeah.
The thing that we all have together is the love. We love each other. We can communicate with each other. Sherry, more so than others, we communicate because I guess she is the oldest, and she can bring certain information that the girls may not want to share. She can talk about it, and we can, you know, make it all better, whatever it is.
Mm.
She is, that's why I call her precious. You know, when she was born, I say she is precious. I remember in her growing up, she wanted to participate in the Miss Preteen pageant. I remember this. And I'm from the South. And of course, during that time, we never had the ambitions to do something like that. We would see it on TV, yes, and the girls look glamorous and this, that, and the other. But Sherry wanted to do this. And, I had conflict in myself. How could, I don't want her to be embarrassed. You know, I want her to be a shining star. She is, but she doesn't have the long flowing hair. She does not have the other characteristics that you see girls during that time had. And I had really had to weigh that. Do I let her go forward or should I let her stand her ground? And believe you me, she stood her ground. She would not, this is something she wanted to do. She said, Mom, I'm going to do it. She had no gowns. She had none of the other things that the girls had. But she said, I'm going to do this. So I'm saying and saying to my husband, well, if she's so staunch and she wants to do it, nothing we can say that's going to change her mind. And we went all out. She had a dress, she had, oh my goodness. And it was, she just performed. I remember her little dance moves in her little yellow dress, sunshine, and oh my goodness, of course, the tears just flowed. But we let her make that decision on her own. So, we give the girls their lead and they will take us to where they want to go. They have been based on the old family traditional values. Okay. we practice in our house the strong love. You can't do everything that Sister so-and-so's daughter is doing. This is what we do in our house. But she was determined. She had that go-gettiness, and that's what she was determined to do. So she's a forward thinker. She inspired.
And I would,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mommy. I just wanted to say, I wanted to add to that, because I was also reflecting on Dr. Charlene, Sabria, and Sierra's responses. And during that time with the pageants, what I learned was it's okay to be me, you know, and I had, you know, I think I had a press and curl, you know, and I did very well. I also had puffs, you know, and so it's about embracing you and your inner you. And that's what that lesson, you know, taught me. And I ended up winning top 20 out of 300 girls that year at 12. Yes. So I just wanted to add that piece of it.
Oh, me too.
And that led you on the journey to even how the two of us met.
Yes.
Yes, in the past. Yes.
You kept competing.
We met through pageants. Yes, we did.
Through pageants.
Oh my goodness.
Many years
My
later.
goodness.
So
oh, and those were the good times. Those were the building years. But she continued to be that forward thinking person, to reach back and help those. She helped me. And, you know, I was working full time, had a nice job, but I worked because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring young people on. I wanted them to be the best that they could be. And my mind wasn't on anything else until my daughters called me after they'd seen the movie, Hidden Figures. Mom, didn't you tell us you worked for NASA at one time? And I said, yes. But at that time, you know, you girls, that was not the thing. So she said, can I put this is Sherry, can we put this on Facebook? No, you can't. You know, because Facebook was not one of the things that, you know, I heard a lot of negative things about Facebook. And I didn't want anything to be out there that would harm us or her as they ventured forward. But, you know, and Sherry is very reserved. You know, she stood back. She didn't say anything. But my younger daughter, Ma, didn't you tell me you have something on NASA? I said, yes. She said, you know what? I'm coming home and I want you to pull out everything that you have. So, of course, I had to obey. So when she came home, I pulled out everything that I had, and she was going through this. Ma, why don't we have this on the walls? You have to let people know. Can we put it on Facebook? So I said, no. we, you know, let's talk to your dad about it. So, of course, why did I say that? You know, she twisted dad around her little finger. And of course, he said, well, you can put one thing out there, but I need to know what it is that you're going to put out there. So anyway, they talked. And from there, the rest is history. It sort of brought me out because I was, you know, passive about that. But I was very focal on helping somebody else rise through the ranks, and especially my daughters.
That is amazing. I want to turn to the Thomases for a moment because I do know that they mentioned they're traveling today, and we want to release them shortly. But Dr. Shalanda, I think you had a story about meeting Dr. Marion.
Yes, I do. I was actually on my way to work one morning on taking the NJ Transit train, and it was packed. And then I just, asked if she was in a seat, and I said, "Do you mind if I sit here?" And so she said, "Sure." I sat down, and we just started having a conversation. It ended up me telling her that I was the AKA and she was a Delta. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's
Yes,
correct.
you are.
And, and then she went on to share with me her story about working, with NASA. And I said, "Oh my goodness, I have to take a picture." So she and I took a picture, and I'm sorry you didn't like Facebook, but I put it all on Facebook.
And the only time I get to see Facebook now, my daughter, I don't know how she has it set up, Sherry, it comes to my email.
Oh,
So I get the emails and I can go in and see what's out there. But
So,
I remember,
do you? Do you
we
remember?
that's
used to
amazing.
have long rides on the train, and I had people coming up to me all the time. And I remember this instance, I remember you, and we got to talking, and I think I still have your name in my contact list.
Yeah, okay, great.
But,
Yeah. And
but also, we were right on the same line as the Keene College.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And I remember this young lady, she was so upset. And she had a math exam coming up. And she said, "I don't know what to do because I don't understand some problems she had with understanding a formula." And I said to her, I said, "Do you mind if I take a look?" And she said, "No, I don't mind." But she said, "I don't know if I'm going to pass this exam, And I looked at her and I said, "Yes, you will. Let's take a look at the problem." Took a look at the problem, set it up in 3 steps. Now, this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to tackle it. And she said, "Who are you?" I say, "I'm a math major myself, and I'm going to help you with this problem." And sure enough, you never know who's watching you on the train. You just never know. So after I went through this with the young lady, I had people in the mall coming up. "Are you the lady on the train who helped the young lady with a math problem?" Yes, this is what I do. This is how I am. The notoriety and, stuff like that, it's okay. But my thing is, how do we bring up the next generation? How
Yeah.
do we get them to move to that point in their lives? So I've had a lot of nice conversations, so on the train and meeting a lot of nice people on the train.
Yes. So I'm going to be very conscious about who I'm sitting with on the train. But and very interestingly, the last time I was on the train the other week, I met an amazing woman who I helped with something very innocuous. She left her bag in the bathroom. Turns out she is a professor at Yale. So you never know who you're going to meet on the train. But promises, I know you have to go, but I wanted to just kind of hear just kind of one last word from you, particularly Dr. Shalanda. How do you, and I'm going to get back to this question as we wrap up with all of you, because you're all married as well. How do you and your husband really kind of come together to kind of cultivate this mother-daughter relationship that you have with Morgan? How do you keep that balance going as a family? Because we know
Yeah.
it's a family affair.
Yes, it is. That's a great question. So we have a son as well. So we pretty much, I handle my daughter and he handles our son. And if there's anything that's really pressing or anything that he feels like he should know, or there's something I feel he should know that she shares with me, I'm like, I need to let your dad know about it. Then I'll share it. But for the most part, he trusts me. to raise her and I trust him to raise our son, but we also bounce off of each other when it comes to discipline, when it comes to, certain things of advice. I'm like, I can't teach our son how to be a man, but I can teach him how he should treat a lady, and so forth. Like my daughter, he can't teach her how to be a young lady, but he can teach her how a man should treat her and how she should be respected.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. And Morgan, I just want to commend you for just being such a wonderful example of being an empowered daughter. And from what I see, you are certainly carrying your mother's legacy on, and we're very proud of you. And Dr. Sherry, you'll be happy to know she was in pageants too. She was in the Miss New Jersey Teen USA pageant, did wonderfully as well.
Thank
Awesome. Congratulations.
You are free to drop off whenever you have to for your travel.
I want to pan to my mom who's here, who's the legacy. Say hi, Mom.
Hi. Hi, Mom. I've heard so much about you over the years, and thank you. If I knew Mom was there, she should have been on too, Dr. Shalanda, but it's okay.
She just walked in.
Okay.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting everyone, Sister and Sister Tiffany. Thank you so much for thinking of us. We love you. We're family, and you know that. Love you, Sister Williams. Love everybody. God bless you, and have a great weekend.
Keep nurturing your passions, traveling together. We love it. Dr. Sherry, before we kind of opened up that final question about kind of how the families, I'd like to hear from the Smiths and from the Madons and from Mom Johnson, you in particular too. How do you kind of work in conjunction with your husband to nurture that? Dr. Sherry, I wanted you to talk about something you and I have in common, right? We are not biological mothers, but we are mothers to many through the work that we do and the calling that God has put on our life. So we want to speak to future moms or mothers of purpose, right? So
yes.
How do you carry your legacy on to younger women that are not your biological daughter en masse?
Yeah, thank you for that, Reverend Tiffany. Again, I see it also as a responsibility as well, as this is someone else's daughter who is entrusting their daughter, with me to carry out, a legacy of excellence. And that's how I see it is, my mother always said, you never know whose life you really touch.
Yes.
And I just use that really to just carry that on, to the young women that I mentor. I think mentorship is so important. Mentorship, also sponsorship and allyship. So in the, whether it is academically or in the workplace, and I always just make myself available to anyone who would want help. And on Mother's Day, I got a text from one of my goddaughters that said, "Happy Mother's Day, Godmommy." And it was just so touching to see that and hear that and know, the impact I was making. So
Awesome. And I feel the same. I echo those sentiments as well. So Dr. Charlene, how do you and Dr. Vernon kind of come together to cultivate this mother-daughter relationship?
Okay, so we parent as a team. So we stand on one principle. So when we make a decision, when we're raising our children, because we have a son also, our decision is one. And so the kids know if they come and ask me for something or to go somewhere, Dad and I will talk about it. And so they can't manipulate the other, so forth. And we put a structure in place for our children. They know what's the expectation. They know what's important for us in our family is having a personal relationship with the Lord. So we worship as a family, church, and our kids. That's important, having a personal relationship with God. We are nurturing that with our kids. We teach them how to pray. And, that's number one. Also, education is important to us. So we work as a team to make sure that our children are doing their schoolwork, they're staying on top, of what is expected from them academically, because, you know, education also opened the door for opportunities. And so we want our kids to know that is very important. We also have moral standards that we impart on our children. Their dad is very strict. I think he's more strict than I am when it comes to the way that our children dress when they leave the house, when they're going out, the way they carry themselves. And one of the other things that is important that for us when we're raising our kids to be kind to others and respectful, because God put us here on this earth to help one another. And so we model that. We are always helping other people, and we want our children to also be the same. You know, we're not here to just gather wealth, but it's also helping to, those who might be in need. So that's how we parent our children.
Awesome. And Chitra, how do you and your amazing husband Vishal, who's in law enforcement, right? You would think he would be a hard guy, but I know him well. You all have a wonderful balance. So how do you all balance raising and Vidi and nurturing this balance of this wonderful mother-daughter relationship?
So I will be very honest with you. It's one of the hardest things because Vishal and I are very close. We've been married for 22 years, but it just feels like we've been still dating. We are in that phase, you know. And it's very hard when you have two human beings that just come into your life at once, and all of a sudden, you know, they just take so much time, you know, of your life, and you don't get to spend the time that you can spend, you know, otherwise. So it was very, you know, challenging in the first. Vishal likes to get a lot of my attention, a lot of my time, still does. And then I have two of them, particularly Vidhi, like even if we would be watching a movie together, they would fight for who's going to sit next to me. So it was not the easiest route, but I have to give a shout out to my mom for this, because my mom taught me the power of communication. It is important to be able to express yourself. So when I was a young girl, I have a very vivid image of coming home from school, and I would be dressed in the school uniform with my shoes on, and my mom would actually greet me and put me on a chair and say, talk to me about how your day was today. And I would start telling her how my day was. And then she would say, great, now say all that again in Hindi so I can understand better. So I would translate all of that, you know, in Hindi. So she taught me how to communicate, how to express. So I have embraced that. And I leverage that in my relationship. So for example, it's summertime. It's my heart is right now more focused about my twin children that are home. I want to spend a lot more time. And I did communicate that with my husband. I said, you know me, right? It's summertime. You know, I'm going to be a lot more like mommy than, you know, being your wife right now. And he goes, yes, I understand. And vice versa. When they're out to college, we are taking trips. We are having fun as a couple as well. And then at the end of the day, as Dr. Thomas said, it's about the teamwork. So when you communicate, when you express, when you don't feel suppressed in any parts of the relationship you want to kind of focus on, it's the teamwork. So yes, we all live like four siblings. We are 22 years apart from each other, me and my twins, and my husband is 24 years apart from them. So we all, you know, work together. Like, you'll hang out together, we'll have, you know, fun together, we would make jokes, we would, you know, uplift each other, and that sort of a relationship. So yes, he's not overly strict, but he has his boundaries. He's very clear about the values that, you know, the children should have in lives. And I am equally, you know, at par with that. So there's no fights over that. But sometimes I come as a calming factor in my family, and I like to express, you know, to my husband and to my children, and let them know that if there is any kind of a conflict in views, it's okay to agree to disagree, but it's also important to respect each other. So it's important when you are surrounded by your family to dress a certain way, to behave a certain way, and to talk a certain way, because that's not what you're expected to do when you're out in college with your friends, right? You could be a different person, but it's important to understand who your audience is, who you're surrounded by, and be, you know, able to embrace that. So yes, at the end of the day, it's teamwork for sure. Communication is very important, and understanding for each other is very, very important as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And Dr. Marion, do you want to give us the last word on how you and the incomparable dad, Frank Johnson, work together to cultivate your relationship with your daughters?
Oh, well, like I said earlier, we practiced tough love with the girls. We had the three daughters, and a lot of things they learned from that. I have to say, uh, the doctor who just spoke, I mean, she just like summed it up. It is teamwork.
Yes.
It is love. It is trust in each other. And my husband and I, we work as a team. If the answer is going to be no, then it's going to be no. If we say yes, then it's going to be yes. We don't play the playing one against the other. We make sure that our decisions are solid, and this is what we pass on to our daughters. And they know we love them. Our last conversation when we talk on the phone, it's always, I love you, Mom, and mine back, I love you too.
Wow. That's amazing. And what fitting words for us to really close on. I want to thank our daughters, and I will allow you if there's anything that the daughters want to say in closing. Sabria and Sierra, any closing words that you want to express, or any advice to girls that may be kind of struggling with their relationship with their moms? 30 seconds or less.
Do you want to say something?
Oh, I can go. I was gonna say, try, like we talked about, like we have open communication. I am a more emotional person, and I think my mom and I's relationship has really grown, especially since we've come to try to really understand each other's perspectives and where we're coming from. And I think doing that is really important in a mother-daughter relationship and really trying to understand your mom. And I really learned a lot, especially being older. Like she's not just my parent, she's her own person. And so she didn't have a manual raising me, and I don't have a manual being a best like daughter or an adult or like person. So just giving each other grace and having that open communication, I think, and listening and really listening to each other, I think that is good advice to take.
Great. Sierra and Biddy?
I'd like to say that it's all about perspective and feelings, and that our moms are also people, like Sabri was saying, and we need to respect their feelings. And though sometimes we think that they don't understand ours, that it's all about communication and trying to put ourselves not so much in their shoes, but trying to understand where they're coming from.
Biddy?
Going off of that, I was gonna say I was watching this TikTok where it said, it's your mom's first time living life too. And anytime I have a disagreement with my mom, I just think about that and I'm like, it's really important to just be able to like put each other in each other's like shoes and just like really understand where the other person's coming from, because like my mom said earlier, like different generations, there are gonna be some disagreements, but it's just important to learn how to navigate through that by like truly respecting and understanding, communicating, even if, you are disagreeing about something.
And I'm going to let the daughter who was recently inducted into, I think it's the American Academy of Nurses. It's like the Oscars of being a nurse. And she even has her Oscar outfit and a statue that someone made for her of herself in that moment. The chair, the president of the Virginia Nurses Association. I'm going to let you, daughter, have the last word.
Yes, mutual respect and communication is definitely the key. As daughters, our mothers have raised us, passed those values on to us, and we grow to respect each other and respect each other's views. And as long as we keep those lines of communication open and that mutual respect, our relationships will continue to flourish.
Awesome. Great words. I'm going to let my mom pray over us. And before she does, I'll just say thank you again to all of our guests. And, I am now a bonus mom. So I want to also just encourage the bonus moms to use and I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Ilana Joy Brewer. I love you, very proud of you, very honored to be your bonus mom. And thank you for loving me and trusting me to do that. And my daughter has a lot of courage because she lost her mom unexpectedly a few years ago. And so it can be hard to open your heart to a new mom. But for bonus moms out there, just keep pushing, keep loving, keep working with your partner, and have that teamwork that everyone said today. So there, and future moms, just know that when it's your time, trust yourself. You'll know what to do. These authentic moms have all said that there was no manual. So trust yourself and do what's right. If you've discovered that you can never be a biological mom, just know that motherhood is more than just about biology. There are young women and young men in this world that need the mother inside of you, because motherhood is actually an institution that God created, and it's one that nurtures the purpose in others. So, even biological moms that are on here, once you have done your part for your daughter, I encourage you also to find other young women, and even along the journey, maybe friends of your daughters right now need that motherly love, need someone to help them launch. So I hope our conversation today has equipped you with the motivation and the tools to go out and mother in this world. So, to the greatest mother I've ever known, Pastor Phyllis Williams, I'm going to turn it over to you. We love to shop. And I have to say, Smiths, when you were talking about how we love to shop, I was just envisioning your husband's face, like, right. But so I can see my husband's face, my dad's face right now. We love to shop, we love to travel, we love to just lay on her bed and just talk, and eat at. We're foodies too, but we also love to serve God together. We love to serve our purpose together, and that's why she has this conversation with me every month, because we are our purpose mother and daughters too. So, Mom, I love you. You are the consummate example of motherhood, and your mothering never ends. And I will always subject myself to being your daughter. So, would you close us out?
Sure. Thank you so much. And all of the above, I'm just so grateful for everyone being here. And I just want to leave one thought with you: to raise your daughters to bear fruit. Those of you of the faith know exactly where I'm coming from, but every one of you have exhibited that, no matter what your beliefs are. And it's found in Galatians 5:22 and 23. If we display this as best as we can and encourage our daughters as well to bear the fruit of love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The Bible tells us that against this, there is no law. Nothing can stand against it. And lastly, be your authentic self to your daughter. Admit that you're not perfect, nor is she, and celebrate each other. And I find that celebrating my outstanding daughter certainly relieves the pressure of all that she has accomplished. And I am so grateful to see her reach the highest heights. And it just makes me more confident in God that I may have done something right through him, of course. So let's celebrate our daughters today. And as we go down, let us bow our heads to pray. Most gracious God, we thank you today for being able to come into your presence, God, and celebrate these wonderful mothers and daughters and all those who are on the webinar today, those that are encouraged even the more. And Father, as we know, some mothers and some daughters have strained in different relationships, but we pray, God, that something was said today, something was exhibited that would cause them to repair, renew, reset, And so, God, we lift up those particular relationships to you, that you would perfect them as only you can. I thank you again for those who have come. I thank you for the vision of Reverend Tiffany, God, and all those who support what she is doing. I thank you, God, that as we go down from this place, that you would continue to be our focus, that you would continue to strengthen us, God, and to show your love and let it continue to abound in each of us so that we can be a better us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. I love you all. Thank you for also tuning in and those that are watching the playback. And go in grace, go in peace. We're going to be on a summer break for Breakfast at Tiffany's. We're going to evolve. We're going to change this conversation a bit, but we're going to still have it. And I'm hoping, Dr. Marion Johnson, that we can sit down with you in the next year and really, really hear your story. All right, everyone. God bless.
God